Please, everyone, we're happy join me in welcoming Aymeric Pineau, and we're happy to have you here. Thank you for talking to us, Aymeric, and he's the creator of Interlayer, and we're very excited to have you here. The floor is yours. Thanks.
I'm gonna share my screen and start with the first slide. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining that presentation. Today we will talk about internationalization. So we will focus on that presentation on first some terminology. What is the difference between localization and internationalization? We'll then continue and wonder, should we internationalize an application on what are the different solutions that allows to internationalize that application. We will focus then on a bit of history about internationalization on the GS world, but more broadly about the tech in general. And we will continue with with a small focus on Interlayer, what we are trying to solve on that internationalization world, before talking about good practices related to internationalization. So yeah, let's get started with a bit of terminology. We often see two different terms: internationalization, abbreviated by i18n, because there is 18 letters between the I and the N, and localization, abbreviated by l10n. So the internationalization is a process of designing and developing a product, an application, or a system so that it can be easily adapted to different languages, regions, and cultures without requiring major engineering changes. And localization will be the process of adapting a product, application, or system to a specific language, region, or culture by translating text and adjusting elements such as format, date formats, currencies, images, and cultural references to meet local expectation. So both terms are quite confusing, and for me refer to the same idea. If I have a website in English, I want to make that website available for Canadian French speaker, but also Chinese or Russian people. So behind that term, there is different notion. The first one will be, of course, translating the content of our website. The second one will be adapting that content. If we have people from Mexico and people from Spanish, we will have variation even if both speak Spanish. We will have some language that are written from left to right and other from right to left. So we have to be aware about that, especially to adapt the layout of our application. We also format numbers, in that case with 1000. How do I split the 1 from the 0? With a dot, with a comma, with a space. Then we have problematics with units. For example, if I match someone on Tinder that is 1000 miles away, what does that mean to me? We have problematics with currencies. We want to adjust the price related to the local currencies and the daily rate about that currencies in comparison of your local one. We have to format dates, and as well as time and time zone. For example, if I receive that Google Meet or that Zoom at 12 p.m. Canadian time, I will be present at 6 p.m. on my local French time, not before, not earlier. Then we have two main categories of tool behind that naming. The first one is internationalization solution. So on the JavaScript side, the most famous one and the first one is i18n Next. We also have Format.js, which is a Yahoo project first that work on harmonization of API to format numbers or pluralization and many other things directly on your browser or your JavaScript execution platform. For example, if you send an email on Node.js, you can access a global class which is named INTL. If you write something like new INTL dot number format, you provide the local that you want to format that number on the local the given number. It will format the number as expected. They also maintain a solution which is named React INTL, which is a different solution than Next INTL that won't focus on Next.js. On the Vue.js side, everybody is quite agree about using Vue INTL, even on Next application. You probably use, if you use the INTL plugin, Vue INTL under the hood. We also have linguis that take a different approach using .po files to declare your content. So we will talk a bit later about that format. And int layers, that's the solution that we are creating to speed up the development of multilingual application. In fact, when you make your application multilingual, the pain point is that really slow development down, and that's what we are trying to fix. And then behind localization, there is often localization platform applications. The first one created, and the most famous one, is Croding, created in 2009. Croding is an application, a platform that making connecting multilingual website organization with copywriter, for example, Chinese one or Russian one to write and adapt your website regarding the current local. We also have Phrase created in 2012, followed by Localize with a C and a Z created in 2017, and Localize with a K, a S. Losses, that is a solution created by the creator of i18n Next, and as well int layer. For us, localization have no value actually since AI, and we can translate everything in CI/CD and everything. So what we want to create is just a solution that will help you to create and to translate your content more easily using your own API key and the AI provider of your choice. So we can wonder, why should we internationalize an application? Right now on Chrome, we have a feature, Google Translate, that helps to translate any web page. But what happens if I switch to another page, if I navigate to inside that application? Will I keep the context if I'm selecting English? Will I keep the translation in English? What happens if I deploy a dropdown on JavaScript, then injecting some content inside that page? Is that will translate as well that content? Not necessarily. On other problematics is, okay, that stuff will work on Chrome, but what if I'm on Safari? What if I'm on a mobile device? What if I develop a mobile application or even a desktop one? The second point about internationalization is SEO. If I write here internationalization written in Spanish, I retrieve only Google's Spanish content on Google. So if I want to rank on that search intention, I will have to translate my website, see if it is only available in English. So the two main idea about internationalization is boosting the retention of the user, so by offering a better accessibility, and also boosting our discoverability using Google or search engines. We can also wonder what happens since ChatGPT if I research, okay, ¿cuál es internationalization in Spanish on ChatGPT? ChatGPT will probably make some search on Google using in English and then retrieve all that content, merge all of that together and answer me then in Spanish. You're right, but if you want your website to appear on the search results of ChatGPT, you will also have to make to get a good authority score for your website. So you will probably cannot bypass the SEO practices to try to be discovered on ChatGPT. So finally, we know that internationalization will help for your discoverability. So even if you want to appear on AI search tools, you will have to probably to focus on internationalization. So the question is then, how do we internationalize an application? So let's take here an example of a React component. Do you see the problem? That component will quickly become unmaintainable. So we can eventually clean it a bit, for example, like that. In that case, we have one main problem is, okay, we will provide a local props on any single of my components. If I have thousands of different components in my code base, I will have to provide that props everywhere. So there is probably better practice to adopt. In the case of React, we can store and retrieve that local inside a context, just here. But again, there is some limitation about that. But we just did our first internationalization solution. The first problem will be, for example, on Next.js, since Next.js 13, context will not be possible to be retrieved on server components. So we will have to provide that props with the local on server component anyway. But other problems are what happens if a local is missing on one of my components. If in that case, Russian is missing, how do I detect it? I will render my page, my application, and I will have to display here hello world to just realize, oh, my content is not translated. The second one is, what if I'm the developer of that application and tomorrow the product owner of the project call me and say, okay, next week we are beginning to sell the application in China. So can you please add Chinese everywhere on the application? So in that case, I will have to go over each of my components and insert Chinese everywhere. I will probably have a bad day. So since AI, that's relatively easy to do, I will just go here, click enter, click tab, and generate my Chinese translation. But 5 years ago, it wasn't as easy. So maybe it could be a good practice to just adopt separation of concern, of getting files or a space to manage the content of our application, and others just to manage the logic of that application. And the last point is probably the less understood by developers. That's a bundling problem. Let's say that I have one page /about for my English content and another one for /fr/about for my French content. When I bundle my application on Next.js, for example, but on Vite as well, on using, for example, React Router 7, I will create a different bundle for each page of my application. But in that case, on both pages, I will retrieve, for example, with the English content, with the French local, I will retrieve the English in French, but also get inside my bundle the English version of that content, the Spanish one, Hindi one, and a default one that I actually do not need. So finally, in that case, I will end up with something like 80% of unused content, in that case, embedded inside my application that will be sent probably around the globes to any clients that will fetch the website. So finally, the idea of an internationalization solution will be to offer abstraction for better developer experience, and as well separation of concerns to help inserting new locals, detecting if one is missing, and we optimize all of that for the bundling of your application to avoid that kind of bad practices and pollute your code base with unused content. So here an example of internationalization solution that's globally the same whatever solution you will use. The API can change, like the syntax can be a bit different from one solution to another one, especially for Vue.js, but the idea will be quite the same. We will have a provider somewhere where we can store our local, and we will retrieve a T function to then retrieve the content stored in different JSON. In that case, we will retrieve Bonjour le monde in French and Hello world in English. We will then end up with another problem is if we have 10 different pages and we have one large JSON, including all our translation for different pages. We will import that JSON on any of our pages, so it will also probably lead to unused content inside your page that you can probably optimize regarding that point. The next one is Lingui. Lingui take a different approach because we do not declare here our content in JSON, but we declare it using a portable object format. That's the same idea. We have a provider and we have here we inject a component getting a key just here or title to retrieve hello world or bonjour le monde. So what are the key points that will make you select one solution instead of another? The first one, I will say, of course, it will be the platform. If you are on Vue.js, you will probably select Vue i18n. If you are on Next.js, you will have the choice between i18 Next or Next INTL. Or in a React application, the choice will be between React INTL and or React i18 Next. So the portable object format was a project created by Oracle in 95 and was first to internationalize Unix application. So it's still really used. A lot of people keep using that format because it provides every feature that we need to internationalize an application. In that case, we can inject strings inside our key or content. We can manage pluralization, genderization, on everything. And still right now, we use that format on C, on environment as GNOME, KDE, or even on Python frameworks like Django, Flask, PHP, on frameworks like Symfony, Laravel, or even by developing template for WordPress or Drupal, we use that kind of portable text format. That portable text format, we will have one file per local, and we will then compile all of that in C inside a machine object, MO file, which will be a binary that will contain all the reference to be imported inside our program. So let's have a look on the history of internationalization. The first problem that we had was rendering characters. How do we render accent? How do we render like Cyrillic character, Chinese ones? So that was only since the 19th that arrived the foundation of i18n since Unicode Universal Character Set. We talk then about the portable object format with the GNU getText project. But following that, Windows had its own approach, same for iOS, Android. All of them have kind of a built-in way to integrate multilingual content. Arrived then Google Translate, that is really helpful to translate our content. No need anymore for copywriters or others, even if in 2009, Crowding was created as first localization platform, at least the first famous one, that was making connect together a multilingual project with copywriters from China, Russia, or whatever. On the JavaScript world, we then had i18 Next, that was the first JavaScript, popular JavaScript library for translation. And in the case of i18 Next, we used JSON, so JavaScript native object nation, or I forgot the acronym, but JavaScript way to structure objects to declare our content. Format.js arrived just after in 2016 and tried to offer harmonization about that JSON by offering the ICU message format, just a standard way to think about pluralization, genderization, and many other things. Then, even if it's not related to internationalization, we see arrived the concept of component with React, Vue.js, and Angular. Before, we were also trying to scope our content by component, one file for on navbar, on everything. But React really made that process more common. And the idea of IntLayer is to say, okay, if we adopt a sort, I mean, even if we are thinking about component, we keep using a centralized way to declare our content into that global JSON files at the root of the application. So the idea of IntLayer will be to say, okay, we have one component on one content file per component to make the maintenance of that application easier. And in 2022 arrived also LLM and ChatGPT that really help to make accurate translation. Since AI, nobody really use Google Translate to translate his website. Many people just copy paste their content from ChatGPT. On the star history point on GitHub, we have one metric which is interesting. First, it will be the creation date of each project, and then we can see kind of the traction that gets each of that project. So the first one just here is Format.js. They made an amazing work on that harmonization of API of JavaScript. We also have all i18 Next related solutions just here that are still kind of the main and the reference in terms of internationalization for React application, simply because there is a tons of different community plugins and different solutions to fix all problems related to internationalization. We also have Lingui just here, next INTL that get a lot of traction over the time. Vue i18n, which is quite constant over the time. And the last one is IntLayer. So guys, we need your help. Please go on GitHub and drop a little star. It will really help us to make, again, the better solution, internationalization solution. So what's the idea of IntLayer? As I said, we want to scope our content per component. If I copy paste or duplicate my navbar into another application, I will get the related content in the same folder. I don't want to go on each JSON in French, Spanish, or whatever at the root of my application to then copy paste each key value and manage like outdated translation or anything. Also, we make free-checkable at build time that content. That means if you do not import your navbar inside your page, your application, we will not bundle the related content. And we make all that magic optimization related to different pages in an automatic way at the build time of your application. Then we try to simplify the API to retrieve our content. No need for active function. So in the case of IntLayer, we just retrieve directly our content, type safely, and whatever, if you are on a server or a client component, you will use kind of the same syntax. You can also declare your content here in TypeScript, but also in JSON or other formats. You can, if you want to externalize your content, you can store your content from a CMS On a build time, we will use a fetch function that to just get your content and make it generate the types that are related to that content. And and we will automate the build of all of that to integrate that content inside your application. We are also cross framework. We work on Vue.js. We are working right now on Svelte, on Angular. We support Markdown if you are developing a documentation, a blog, or I will say like a privacy policy page. Markdown could be useful. So that's a good point to know about IntLayer. Then we try to automate as much things that we can using AI in CI/CD or even in your CLI, or using a VS Code extension as well. And we provide MCP server integration if you want to accelerate your development inside your IDE on Cursor or VS Code. And last thing will be a visual editor. If you want to work on the same project and interact with the same content with done developers, IntLayer aim to provide that kind of features. So let's finish with good practices to adopt when we develop multilingual websites. I see this one really often, using a select or button to switch from one locale to another one. A good practice will be to use anchor tag, a tag, or links, because it will help your Google bot when it will go and visit your website to detect, oh, we have a Chinese version of the website here using hreflang field. If I also write Chinese characters or Chinese text inside an English application or French one or whatever, just think about adding lang equal ZH in that case. And in the case of Next.js, for example, Next.js have a pre-built component named linked. And if we deploy that dropdown, Next.js will also prefetch each different version, localized version of that of our different pages to make the navigation smoother for the user. The second one is hreflangs. Hreflang is metadata that can be embedded inside the a tag of your application, and that help to say, okay, the canonical, the main version of my website is that one, but there is different variation of that web page for different people from Spain, France, or even English from Brittany. And if none of that local match the current visitor, we will redirect him using or show him the X default solution. So in that case, the same than the canonical page. This one, the last one especially, is really often forgotten. The next point is using first local path for your application instead of global one. If the link is inside your application, just prefer using local one. Again, on Next.js, that will allow prefetching your pages. And if I'm in the context of a French application, I'm on the home page and I want to go to the about page. I don't want to redirect the user here on the English version of that page. I want to redirect him directly on that French version. Even if I have a middleware that kind of detect if there is a cookie set saying that, oh, okay, the user is a French one, we want to redirect him on the French page. But just a good practice that will avoid HTTP redirection and make the navigation again smoother. The next point is robot.txt. We often think about disallow one specific path, in that case, dashboard. I don't want the dashboard to appear on Google search results, but people often forgot to adding the subpath like that. So like you can see like the Russian version of that dashboard that will appear on Google. Google is usually not stupid and will say, okay, that dashboard is the same that one, so finally that one should not be indexed, so I will not index that page. But again, it's just good practices that are always good to respect. And the last one is sitemap. Sitemap, we can declare other model for that sitemap using, for example, here XHTTP, and we can declare our different alternate for that page inside our sitemap. So again, that's a point that is often forgotten. People usually place each different pages or location inside different fields inside the sitemap, but the best practice will be to use that syntax. So yeah, I have done. Tell me if you have any question or anything. Just connect screen to get you in parallel.
Thank you, Aymeric. Hannah has a comment and a question. She says for localizing meta tags like titles, descriptions, and open graph data, is using structured objects with the that's the I don't know how to say it in English, but the curly braces, the recommended approach in int layer. Especially, I think you can read the question. So,
Yeah.
for static
Yeah.
SEO content.
Well, yeah, it will of course depend of your application. If you are on an Next.js, there are built-in helpers to generate either the sitemaps, metadatas, and others. I will show some example if can share my screen again. Metadata. In the case of int layer, let's say that I have some metadata just here. We will just declare our content inside a .content file, in that case, with a different titles, and we will just retrieve it inside generate metadata function provided by Next.js. That one will be just re-exported on the layout, just here, export generate metadata. And we can here access some params, retrieve the local, inject that local inside a use int layer or use dictionary function, and we will access our title, description, and everything that way. In the case of React application, I'm not sure if I have an example to show. React with React. We can use the same logic, just declaring our content or multilingual content, and then using the get int layer function to use a use effect and do something like a document dot I forgot the syntax to set manually our metadatas using the multilingual content retrieved by int layer. So yeah, is that answer the question?
Yes, I believe so. Hannah, can you give us a thumbs up? Yeah. So yeah, it did. I'm going to Hannah says she'll try this approach. Maria asked, what are some underappreciated elements of internationalizations that most developers overlook? Like date formats, polarizations, is it cultural nuances?
I will say all of that. Generally, a general way of speaking, internationalization is not an appreciated topic by developers because that's again slow development down. To develop a same website in the case of I don't know, a service company, you can easily take 20 or 25% more time just by adding a new language because you will have to jump across different pages, format your numbers. Is that important for your business logic? Maybe yes, maybe not. So the point is, when should you internationalize your application? For me, that's a great tool to test your idea more globally. If you have a startup product, for example, in the case of int layer, as an internationalization solution, we have 12 different languages actually rendered on the website. And one of them is Japanese. And I think that none of others alternative, others internationalization solution think about Japanese speakers. And in our case, one of our big community using internationalization, our solution are Japanese people. So, and we did not expect that if tomorrow we create a SaaS, a business related to internationalization, and we have to make some ads, I will probably think about that people uh, before thinking about American one, for example. So yeah, that's a point that can be implemented early to test your idea, or also late to match like needs for accessibility. For example, if you are Amazon, you want everybody to be able to consult your website. But yeah, that's often hard to implement internationalization too late. Like it's pain point to just go over all your code base, all your components to refactor everything. So I will say you have to define that need when you begin to build your application. And then probably formatting numbers, it's probably not the big problem. But yeah, first you think about metadata, text, translation, and then you will make adaptation for different locales, different element like that will be required to just match all expectation for readers and everything.
Thank you. You even answered one of my questions, which was when should we start thinking about it?
Mhm.
So, and Sophia asked, do you have a preferred tech stack or tool chain for managing internationalization in modern apps?
Yeah, I do not really have one specific one. Each tool is really great. But one source of inspiration for IntelliJ was Next.js. Like using the syntax, we can auto-generate that sitemap in, if I share my screen again, sitemap for our website will look like that. So we provide helpers, we get here blogs and everything, and we generate like our final sitemap that I show earlier in a slide is generated using that helpers. So that's really great to be able to access that in JavaScript and build it dynamically better than writing manually each field in my XML file. So I will say that Next.js is a really great one, but Next is not too bad, and I'm pretty sure that really good solution will also arrive in the future.
Thank you. Sophia is thanking you as well. I believe there are no more questions. And yeah, I'm very glad we had you here today, and thank you for giving us this talk. I think everyone is thinking more about internationalizations right now, and yeah, I hope
Yeah.
you join us again